Hey, I'm T.A. Charlie, and welcome to the Road to Concord with Professor Joe Bakanovic. Homeroom is on Rumble. You just go to Rumble and search channels for the Road to Concord. It's one word. When you find it, you go ahead and you click follow. It might mean you got to set up an account, but it's fast, it's easy, it's free. I did it, you can do it. For those technologically challenged members of the class, you can also catch us on Facebook and YouTube. After the show, it's uploaded to Podbean, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and BitChute. Just look for The Road to Concord. You can go to the blog page, that's theroadtoconcord.com. That's where you'll find all your show notes, study notes, and handouts for the class. The phone is working. If you don't know how to call in, email us and we'll think about it. Finally, you can email a professor at joe@theroadtoconcord.com. He's a little slow, but he'll eventually get around to emailing you back. This show is currently mainly listener-sponsored. If you are interested in advertising your business on the show, please email us. With that said, we ask for your participation on a value-for-value basis. If you find our show of value to you, then you provide an equivalent portion of your labor and treasure through the donate link on the Road to Concord blog page, the show description on Rumble, and in the comments on the other streams. And thank you to all of you who have and will support this show.
Good morning. Welcome to the Road to Concord. It is Thursday, September 18th, and I am Joe Bakanovic, the supposed professor around here. What you got, Charlie? I see you still in there. You must have something.
No, I forgot to bump myself out of here. I was just
Charlie is being Charlie today.
But I do have a report I'm checking on. It says that Rumble's glitching right now. So
Rumble's glitching.
So just be aware that we may be having some issues on Rumble. So I'll get out of here.
Right when I have a good show to teach too. All right, folks. So I'm just going to get right into it today because I don't know about you. When I'm looking around for something to watch, I hate the long intros. I'm impatient. I don't do well in lines and waiting. So okay. Yesterday I was teaching a class on We Who Are Lost about how if you're going to claim that you follow the scriptures, you have to bend your knee to the scriptures and let the scriptures dictate to you. Today, I want to talk to you about if you are looking for something to base your life in that isn't necessarily quote unquote religiously based. You know, you might think it's secular path for those who aren't as religious. You might find out that that's not as easy to do as you think it is. So, yesterday, I was telling you that if you're going to bow to scripture, you must bow to scripture. You don't get to pick and choose. It's not an a la carte thing, but that's because it's quote unquote religion. And you have to try to learn to understand it as best you can in its original context. But if you're going to deal with a worldview, then you're going to run into something I've told you have to do. You do need to build your own worldview. You have to figure out and by that, I mean, what do you think is right and wrong? Next week, we're going to have a discussion. Next Thursday, a week from today, I want to talk about morality versus ethics, because that's a conversation that I don't like the way the world handles that one. The philosopher in me really balks at the way, if you start researching that, the philosopher in me is like, no. Most of your articles and teachers, I'm like, shut up. You got that confused. And yeah, I mean, shut up. You're making it worse. So we'll discuss that in detail next Thursday. But this Thursday, today, I've told you before in the past, you kind of have to find, you have to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. You know, the old cliche. Well, what do you stand for? And where yesterday I told you can't a la carte the Bible and claim to be a Christian. You can a la carte it and decide I'm going to pick and choose what I believe in. And that's fine. You have literally created a religion, but you're no longer following the God of the Bible, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and you're no longer following the Messiah. You're following yourself. But in this world, outside of, quote unquote religion, you can do that. You can pick and choose what you like, and you can create your own system of right and wrong. Now, understand, if you do that, you're declaring yourself to be God. All right. And we'll get to that here shortly, but that's important. You have to understand this. I've covered that before. If you decide what right and wrong is, you're declaring yourself to be God, especially if you expect others to adhere to your system of right and wrong. But this gets me to Charlie Kirk. He was assassinated by people who claimed he was a hater. Why was he a hater? Well, because he disagreed with them. The problem, as I see it, from their perspective, and let's focus on the rainbow jihad. I don't like LGBTQ. No. You're rainbow jihad. In my world, you're the rainbow jihad. If you find that insulting, that's okay. I consider what you do and your activities insulting as well. We're equal. And that's where I want to go with this. Had the rainbow jihad, were they capable of seeing objective truth, capital T truth, had they stopped and paid attention, they would see that Charlie agreed with their stated ideals, the things they state, the right to decide what you think is right and wrong and how you ought to live, what the founding fathers called the pursuit of happiness. Charlie actually agreed with their stated ideal that they should be allowed to live the way they want. He should be allowed to live the way that he wanted. The problem is Charlie was principled and they are not. The rainbow jihad says that's what they want, but they lie. That's not what they want. They want to be able to live their way, and they want the right to force you to live the same way. They claim to be tolerant. They're not. They claim to be open-minded. They're not. They claim to be inclusive. They're not. The reason Charlie had to be eliminated is he was effective at exposing them. He pulled the curtain back and let everybody see the man behind the curtain. And when I say that Charlie agreed with him, he does. He agreed with the ice cream that they claimed they believed in. He just preached a different flavor. And he was principled. And he really believed in what the Rainbow Jihad says it believes in. So that's why Charlie had to go. Well, that gets us to the topic for today, the right of conscience. The founding fathers were wrestling with this when they wrote the First Amendment. It's connected to freedom of religion, but also freedom of speech. The right of conscience, and this is not my opinion. This right here, this is the Complete Bill of Rights, the drafts, debates, and sources and origins, edited by Neil H. Coggan. See? Little thick, right? This is nothing but a copy of the congressional record. And when you go through it, it tells you which of the founding fathers were representatives, and they were all founding fathers because this is the first Congress, which ones suggested which language, and they explain why they suggest that language. Like Madison, when you read it, Madison wanted to put, the government shall not, there'll be no establishment of religion. He wanted to put national religion in there. And he said then that would make it very clear what we mean. That we weren't prohibiting religion, we were prohibiting a national religion. Well, today we're finding out we should have listened to Madison. We should have put that in there. Well, I'm reading through, and the First Amendment is about, you got 10 amendments in the Bill of Rights. The notes on the first one, the only one that's thicker is as thick, as exclusive or excessive, the one as detailed is the Second Amendment. So they were very clear on what they were talking about. They were talking about what they called the right of conscience. They called it free speech, but it's the right of conscience, the right to believe or to reject anything that you wish. But now they were focusing that on your religious sentiments. And they said so. They said so in their debates. It was about the different denominations and branches of Christianity, not other religions, and for sure not agnosticism or atheism. They wanted to make sure that the government didn't force Quaker beliefs on Mennonites or Mennonite beliefs on Lutherans, et cetera, et cetera. And by the way, they were very, very, very skeptical of the Catholic Church. Not because it was Catholic, but because the Catholic Church had to swear its allegiance first to the Pope. And they saw that as a division of loyalties. They saw the Catholic Church as exactly what it is. It's a nation. No, it isn't, Joe. It's got a capital called the Vatican. The Vatican is walled off and considered to be its separate nation. The head of that nation is the Pope. So therefore, it's not only a nation and a kingdom, it has a king. Claims to be the vicar of the Messiah, but that is not what it is. If you're Catholic, I'm sorry. This is not my words. This is the Messiah's. The Messiah says you are not to have a stand-in for me. And you're not to have anybody over you that you have to call father here on earth. Not as in your natural father, but as in replacing the father in heaven. He said no. And I'm sorry, Peter was not the first pope. Yeshua wasn't even referring to Peter when he said he was going to build his church. He was referring to Mount Hermon, the gate of Hades. So the founding fathers were talking about the right of conscience, the right of religious belief, but also the pursuit of happiness. These two concepts are intricately linked. We'll get to them here in more detail in just a moment. What was the pursuit of happiness? The pursuit of happiness was the freedom to decide what you thought was the righteous life, the moral, virtuous life, a righteous life. That's the pursuit of happiness. I'll prove it to you here before this show is over. It was a legal term in their day. It's what the Greeks would call a happy life. It's what Paul calls joy. The Bible says it too. Why would the Greeks find something that's a biblical concept? Because it's part of natural law. We'll get to that. Hold on. It's not my opinion here. I've learned the history. I've taken the time to read it. So the founding fathers, the right of conscience was the freedom to pursue happiness, to pursue what you thought was the righteous and moral life. Charlie Kirk agrees with this. It's what the Rainbow Jihad says it believes, but it doesn't, because it feels that it should have a right to force conformity. Well, Charlie Kirk had a different flavor of ice cream where he did not want to force conformity. He wanted to persuade, which is where the freedom of speech comes in. If you have a right of conscience to decide what the righteous life is for yourself, you should have the right to express the precepts of that righteous life, the principles, and to try to persuade others to your point of view. Proselytize, if you will. And that's what Charlie Kirk was doing. He was wading into the den of the enemy, campuses, and he was proselytizing, and he was winning hearts and minds. In other words, he waded into Satan's kingdom and snatched souls out of it, won them over to his side. That's why he had to die. He was exposing them for what they are, liars and spiritual and physical murderers from the beginning. He was revealing the evil, the spirit behind the Rainbow Jihad. He's showing that it was evil. And if you watch any of his videos, it's painfully clear that that's exactly what he was doing. And he was extremely effective at it. So now let me share something with you. It's in your show notes on Rumble. I didn't do this on the Road to Concord. I don't have to, because all of your show notes today, two of the three come straight from the Road to Concord. This is a post that I wrote, let's see, when was it? May 1st of 2013. The Pursuit of Happiness Under Natural Law. It's part of a series I did on extrapolating natural law. And we will get to this in future here. But I want to skim down right here underneath the definitions. This is therefore a virtuous life as a life spent in the pursuit of building a moral character, of pursuing what is right, doing the right thing, especially when it is difficult or comes at a personal price. This was considered to be the highest aspiration one could hope to achieve in the life by the Greeks. It's also the same thing according to the Bible, and by many of the men who so heavily influenced the thinking of our founding fathers. To better understand this, we need to understand that the, quote, pursuit of happiness, unquote, in this sense, the sense of pursuing a moral and virtuous life, was actually a legal concept in the founders' time. I wrote about it more in detail here, and you can follow that link. But the foundation of this legal principle can still be found in the writings of the most respected and most influential legal mind of our founders' time, Sir William Blackstone. The following comes from Blackstone's Commentaries on English Law, on the English Common Law. In other words, it is the most referred to law book in the time, human law book. You have to remember, under the founders' time, in the founders' time, the Bible was a law book. It was a legal law book. You could refer to it in court for direction and understanding of the law. This is this is like the Supreme Court of the common law system in both the colonies and England at the time. There's no higher human authority. Blackstone says, when the supreme being formed the universe and created matter out of nothing, he impressed certain principles upon that matter. We'll stop there for a moment. This is Romans 1 and 2, folks. This is straight out of Romans 1 and 2. He continues, when he put, the supreme being, when he put that matter into motion, he established certain laws of motion. If we farther advance to vegetable and animal life, we shall find them still governed by laws. The operations of inanimate and organic processes are not left to chance or the will of the creature itself, but are performed in a wondrous involuntary manner and guided by unerring rules laid down by the Creator. Man, considered as a creature, must necessarily be subject to the laws of his Creator, for he is an entirely dependent being. And consequently, as man depends absolutely upon his Maker for everything, it is his necessary that he should in all points conform to his Maker's will. This will of his Maker is called the law of nature. Nature and nature's God, right? Well, you're going to say, well, that's any idea of the Maker. No. We're going to continue. That was his Commentaries on English Law, 1765. He continues here. The doctrines that thus delivered we call the revealed or divine law, the Bible, and they are to be found only in the Holy Scriptures, the Bible. These precepts are founded upon the comparison to be really found upon comparison to be really a part of the original law of nature. As then the moral precepts of this law are indeed of the same original with those of the law of nature. In other words, the revealed law is part of the law of nature. They're hand in hand. It's just that the revealed law, the scriptures, explain how to understand and interpret the natural laws of the Creator. He continues, is the law of nature expressly declared to be so by God himself. Upon these two foundations, the law of nature and the law of revelation, depend all human laws, the law and nature and the law of God. That is the of nature and nature's God. That's a strictly quote unquote Christian perspective. It comes straight out of Christian theology, Christian philosophy. And it was part and parcel of the English common law, the exact same common law system that we have today. The common law system we have today, you know, stare decisis, case law, that comes directly from the Blackstone is the foundation. So when you read the Declaration of Independence, the pursuit of happiness, that does have nothing to do with whatever makes you happy. That has to do with your right of conscience to pursue the moral and virtuous life. And your right to free speech is so that you can express your belief system to either adhere to or reject others trying to trample on your free will and your right of consciousness. And to proselytize, try to win hearts and minds over to your perspective, to try to change their minds. It is not the right to burn a flag. That is not speech. It is not the right to scream fire in a crowded theater. It is not the right to knowingly and willingly and intentionally go on your TV program and lie about the political ideology and motivations of an assassin. That's not free speech. That is the same thing as saying, you see you witness the execution and you say, no, it wasn't that guy right there holding the weapon with the smoke still coming out the barrel. It's that guy over there who was holding the man that just got shot and trying to comfort him and stop the bleeding. That's the guy. That's an obstruction of justice. And when you do it on a national level, like Jimmy Kimmel did, that's subversion of our system. So no, what he did was not free speech, not as the founding fathers would have understood it. I had a comment on the board from Natasha. It said, wouldn't those count as acts of terrorism since they cause terror? Since they are for political purposes. Yes. It's a right. It's an attempt to manipulate the will and actions of another human being by lying and expressing falsehood. It's also false witness. It's bearing false witness. It undermines the orderly rule of civilized society. So no, that is not, and it endangers other lives. That's not free speech, not according to the founding fathers. I want you to, there's another post that I stuck up here for you. This is from the Heritage Foundation. We're going to go through just a little bit of this. This is the right of the conscience, progressive versus conservative understanding of religious liberty. And I put this link in Rumble's notes under the description in Rumble. I want to come down. I'm not going to read it all. I want the different concepts of religious liberty. The progressive vision of individual autonomy. This is the paragraph I want to read. For contemporary progressives, human liberty involves the individual developing his or her own meaning-giving convictions, their own morality. They just said, for a progressive, autonomy for a progressive is the right to declare yourself your own God. That's exactly what that is. If you can define of a moral framework that and believe that you have a right to demand others conform to your framework, you're declaring yourself God. At least in an ancient conception, you are. It says, William Glaston, who served as an advisor to President Bill Clinton, captures the progressive view with what he calls expressive liberty, the freedom for individuals to live their lives in ways that express their deepest beliefs about what gives meaning or value to life. University of Chicago philosopher Professor Martha Nussbaum defends liberty of conscience by appealing to the special status of the faculty with each person searches for ultimate meaning of life. A faculty, she says, that is not ordained toward anything beyond its own ability to search for meaning about ultimate questions. It's godlessness trying to put meaning into life, which when you do that, you make yourself into your own God. And we've seen the progressives say that they are their own God. So I'm going to scroll down. The conservative understanding of duties to the Creator. That's the conservative's understanding of conscience. The conservative understanding, by contrast, follows the founder's understanding by grounding religious liberty on the acknowledgement of a man's duties to the Creator and his corresponding right to worship freely. The 1776 Virginia Declaration of Rights sets forth the founder's basic framework, that religion, or the duty which we owe to our Creator, and the manner of discharging it, can be directed only by reason and conviction, not by force or violence, and therefore all men are equally entitled to the free exercise of religion according to the dictates of conscience, and that it is the mutual duty of all to practice Christian forbearance, love, and charity toward each other. And then Article 2, 1780 of the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights similarly states, it is the right as well as the duty of all men in society, publicly and stated seasons, to worship the Supreme Being, the Creator and preserver of the universe. The Founding Fathers did not think that your right to conscience was your right to do whatever the heck you thought you wanted to do, or to force that on other people, and to tell them that they have to use your pronouns and they have to accept the fact that your mental illness is truth, objective truth, and they must recognize it, or it's quote unquote hate speech. The Founding Fathers would have supported Charlie Kirk's right to object to that. And they would have rejected the Rainbow Jihad's claim that they have a right to do whatever the heck they want, because it's in the Constitution after all. Well, it's in the Declaration. This is what makes me happy. That's not what they meant. Their words, not mine. And some declaration to that extent or another is found in almost all of the original 13 colonies' foundational work. In fact, the term pursuit of happiness is first found in American the colonial jurisprudence in Virginia the year before Jefferson penned the Declaration of Independence. He didn't invent the phrase. Neither did the man who used it. It comes from Sir William Blackstone, an Englishman. This is our history. Were any of you taught this when you were in school? No. You go to your history books today, and unless you're reading a history book that is specifically oriented at teaching the truth about our founding fathers, you won't find this. You won't find this in public education. You won't find this in universities. You have to go look for it. You must look for it. You have to go to the original documents. Or you have to go to a book where the author has actually been intellectually honest and done that. So your rights to conscience, that's where your right to freedom of religion comes from. To pursue the Creator, the God of the Bible, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, according to your best understanding of what he expects from you. Now, that allows for different denominations of the church. Now, yesterday, I was arguing that the Creator didn't write the Bible in a way that's meant to be interpreted any way you want it to be. The Bible has specific points it teaches. You have to try and understand them to the best of your ability, so far removed from its origin, both culturally, linguistically, and in time. That's the only way that you're going to please Yahweh, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You're allowed to make mistakes as long as they're sincere and earnest and that you're still correctable and teachable. The Messiah said, on my end, I glitched. Hopefully y'all heard me. But the Messiah said that all sins against the Son, against Messiah, can be forgiven, seeing how he is. Yes, sir?
You've been okay as far as audio. I've had a little bit of video delays, but at least on my end.
I have no indication here that there's internet problems on this side. So we're over the target right now. I guarantee you we're over the target. Messiah said that all sins against the Son can be forgiven. He is literally the embodiment of the law made flesh, of the natural law, the revealed law, all of that. Everything Yahweh decided and decreed turned into a human being. That's what he is. He said so. The scriptures say so. So if you sincerely misunderstand the law, then that can be forgiven. Those who flaunt it and go against it, the revealed law is there to, God loves love, so it's okay to have homosexual love. No. And I'm not going to do this with the Bible. Sir William Blackstone just said that the natural law can be determined through wisdom, logic guided by fear of the Creator. So let me look at this. The natural law says they're created male and female for the purposes of procreation. Okay, that's natural law. That's the natural order. Therefore, all love is equal if male and male or female and female try to procreate. Well, that's a violation of the natural order. And in the electrical world, if you try to hook female to female or male to male in an electrical connection, you're going to get an exciting time out of that. And I don't mean in a good way. I mean, you're going to get lit up, more than likely, depending on the voltage going through it. And I've seen somebody do that before. 650 amps with a 24-volt current. And he connected male to male and female to female. I mean, it didn't go well. It was DC, too. Made a pretty little white light. Made a lot of noise. Smell of ozone in the air. Luckily, he was insulated. But he blew up the thing he was working on. I'm glitching again on this ending, the vent that you can hear me.
Yeah, audio's been good so far, and looks like audio's okay on Facebook as well from reports. But yeah, we're over target.
Oh, we're definitely over target right now. So, if you're going to have a worldview that is moral and virtuous, it needs to be coherent and consistent. Coherent. It needs to make sense. You don't have principles that contradict each other. No fallacies in your worldview. That's coherent. It needs to make sense. And it needs to be consistent. No contradictions, no hypocrisy. That's how you pursue a virtuous life. A life lived according to your system of morality. Yes, sir? What was that about, Charlie? We're coming up on break time. I appreciate that. Thank you. I've got to learn this. I'm going to put a clock right in front of my face here soon. I just got to wait for it to get here. Bottom of the hour. We come back. I'll summarize what we just covered. And then I want to have a little chat with you about fascism, because I am absolutely sick and tired of ignorant people spouting their mouth off about this. We're going to go to the horse's mouth, and we're going to find out what fascism is really all about. We'll see you in 3 minutes. All right, we're back. Thanks for Charlie reminding me we got to take the bottom of the hour break. Remember the changes in our lineup now that we're going back to 5 days a week or 5 shows a week. 3 are the Road to Concord, 2 are We Who Are Lost. We've cut it back to 1 hour a show, guaranteed. It may go longer. Sometimes it will, but we're going to always give you at least 1 hour. This allows me to be able to handle the workload. There's a lot that goes into doing these shows for you folks. It's not just me sitting down and deciding, okay, let me run my mouth for 30, 60 minutes. I actually try to bring you something that's worth your time. So I was summing up the pursuit of happiness. It's the right of conscience. It's the right to have religious sentiments in line with your right of conscience. Your free speech is the right to express your beliefs. Conscience is also the right to reject somebody else's. and have the right to express your beliefs, to disagree with others, and to try to win people over to your position, your point of view. It is not speech when you burn a flag or when you do actions and call it, speech. That's a progressive idea of liberty. The right to act out whatever it is you feel like. That's not the founders' ideal. And that's because an action is not speech. Unless, of course, if you want to get technical, the act of speaking. But that's still, you can do that sitting down with all your little hands and feet tied. But you can't burn a flag with all your little hands and feet tied all together. Put in mittens and everything. You understand what I'm saying, so don't try to be cute with me, folks. I used the homosexuality as an example. There's another one. The biblical definition, thou shalt not do murder. Well, it's my body. I can do what I want with it. No, that child in your body is not your body. It's got different DNA. It's an entirely separate. Well, it's not human yet. Now you just redefine what human means. When you redefine in order to excuse or allow something that is wrong, that is inconsistent, and now your system of morality is incoherent. So let me give you an example out of the Bible. When the Pharisees said, okay, I have to honor my father and mother, and here are the things that belong to them in order to do that, but we're going to donate this to the temple, which in their world was the same thing as donating it to themselves, and we're going to call it Korban or whatever, dedicated to the temple. So instead of giving it to your parents, you gave it to the temple, which is the same thing as keeping it to yourself because it's still for your use, seeing as how you are part of the temple. They redefined things. They changed the rules. They moved a goalpost. That was Yeshua, Messiah, called that sin. We do this as a practice in our society today. If we want to do something, we just redefine it. They're not illegal aliens. They're undocumented immigrants. That is a progressive ideology. I can change its existence simply by speaking it into existence. It's no longer a cat. Now it's a dog. I got a little news flash for you. It's still a cat. It didn't change because how did it not change? Because you are not God. So our friends in the progressive left and all forms of secular humanism and anybody that seeks control over others, you are in violation of the universal laws, natural laws, and revealed laws, and you are in violation of the founding fathers' principles and ideas as this nation was established, according to them. Their words, not mine. I'm just adding the definitions and doing the logical extension math here. I know this is tough for a lot of people, but we're gonna conduct a practical application thing here. Fascism. Charlie Kirk had to die because he was a fascist. Was he? Was he really? Okay, well, hold on to that. This is a link. You'll find the link in the Rumble on the description of the show. This is a link down here. The man credited with coining the term fascist, which is really community organizing. You take a whole bunch of reeds, you bind them together with a rope, and you stick an axe blade in them. That's the fascine of fascism. By the way, that is the symbol on each side of the speaker's table in the House of the Representatives. They have fascist symbols in our nation's capital legislative body. Yes. So if we want to look for fascism, maybe we ought to start right there in the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., because that was Mussolini's symbol of a fascism, of the fascine. And it is literally community organizing, putting lots of little disparate groups together so that you can make real political power, even though those groups don't even agree with each other most of the time. So Mussolini defined fascism this way. He's the man credited with first coming up with the term. He defined it. Fascism should rightly be called corporatism, as it is a merger of state and corporate power. No. That's not corporatism, not in the sense that the corporations are running the world, but not exactly not in that way. Let's see what exactly he means. It's public-private partnership. And we'll come back to that in a minute. I'm going to keep scrolling down. Mussolini explains. He says, against individualism, the fascist concept is for the state. Liberalism denied the state in the interest of the particular individual. This is classic liberalism. Our founding fathers, individual rights and liberty over state power. This is Locke versus Hobbes. Now he says, liberalism denied the state in the interest of the particular individual. Fascism reaffirms the state as the true reality of the individual. Fascism conceives of the state as an absolute, in comparison with which all individuals or groups are relative, only to be conceived in their relation to the state. Remember, Woodrow freaking Wilson said that the leader is the potter and the people are just the clay with which he works. This is the same idea that Mussolini is coining. So now I understand it's not, and this is me reading my own self. I wrote this years ago. I understand it's not popular these days, but I'm going to quote Hitler. He is one of the best known, quote unquote, fascists. So he is in the perfect position to show that he held the same understanding about fascism as Mussolini. So Hitler says, quote, it is thus necessary that the individual should finally come to realize that his own ego is of no importance in comparison with the existence of the nation, that the position of the individual is conditioned solely by the interests of the nation as a whole. Society's needs come before the individual's needs. Now, this is religious in nature. The individual believer in the Bible is supposed to subjugate themselves to the needs of the king, Yahweh, the creator, and his son, the Messiah, his kingdom, his rule, his reign. But in this case, they want you to do that, but they want you to worship the beast instead. The beast is a government. The Bible calls it government. So instead of giving worship to Yahweh, the creator, socialism, all of what we call secular humanism, wants you to worship the beast, government. And it believes it has a right to enforce its will on you. We're going to continue reading this. We've let the men who invented the word fascism and one of the best known fascists tell us what fascism means. Let's go back to the man who first coined the term and listen to how he said it's supposed to work. This is Mussolini again. Quote, the corporate state, not corporations, the corporate, the government, a state, a nation set up as a body, as a living organism, which is exactly what Woodrow Wilson said we're supposed to do. Think of and set up a country as an organism where the government is the head and the rest of the nation is the body. That's the corporatism, is the corporeal, corporeal, like of the body, having a real physical body. So the corporate state can, in other words, think of it the body of Christ. That's exactly what this mirrors. That's because there is a spiritual hand behind this. The corporate state considers that private enterprise in the sphere of production is the most effective and useful instrument in the interests of the nation. In view of the fact that the private organization of production is a function of national concern, the organizer of the enterprise is responsible to the state for the direction given to production, unquote. In other words, it is in the state's best interest to let you run your own business, as long as you do so in the best interest of the state. Mussolini continues, state intervention in economic production arises only when private initiative is lacking or insufficient, or when the political interests of the state are involved. This intervention may take the form of control, assistance, or direct management, unquote. In other words, I have to destroy the free market to save the free market, because the free market was not doing what George W. Bush wanted it to do. Or when the unions were about to collapse because of poor management that they forced on the auto unions, Obama came in and stole the auto unions from the stockholders and gave it to the auto workers unions. That's exactly what he did, because he needed the union to survive. So Mussolini said that fascism should allow the private sector to run things however it wants, unless and until the state sees a different need. At that point, the state has the right to step in and directly every other industry, direct every other industry how it wants. How did Hitler agree to this, or did he? Well, quoting Hitler here, the national government will regard it as the first and foremost duty to revive in the nation the spirit of unity and cooperation. It will preserve and defend those basic principles on which our nation has been built. That's Theodore Roosevelt, folks. That's right out of the mouth of good old Teddy, really. Hitler continues, in relation to the public decontamination of our public life, the government will embark upon a systematic campaign to restore the nation's moral and material health. The whole educational system, theater, film, literature, and press, broadcasting, all these things will be used as a means to this end. Let me bump this down for a minute. So we just read Hitler. We're gonna revive the foundational principles of our nation, and we're gonna use all of these social media and all these public institutions, the theater, music, schools, to do what we want to do. Charlie, do you have any idea who I'm thinking about right now in our current day right now?
Oh, who?
Yeah.
Well, the first name that comes to my mind with this stuff is George Soros, but
no. Trump administration.
Well, yeah, that's true too.
Pam Bondi came out. She's going to go after all this hate speech that gets in the way of what they think the country should be.
Well, that's true.
And she was immediately attacked by principled right wingers that were cleaning up their own house. They jumped up. We did. Go to the road to Concord and read our blog page. We jumped on her.
Yeah.
Okay. But Trump is doing all these things. We're going to make America great again, MAGA. And you are willing to force your will on these institutions to make that happen.
That's true. But this is where we're so deep into this, because this is where we get this too big to fail for the auto unions, the banks, and the media is right in there too, because they're part and parcel with the government. It's kind of like, you know, you were talking earlier about the Catholic Church being a nation and such. That's the same thing that's going on with these corporations and such. They're being entangled with the government, and so you don't.
And that's what makes them too big to fail, is because that would hurt the government,
right? And
not
you
the
even
nation.
see it. You even see it in local government. We've got some corruption going on in one of our local cities here, that's all connected with this intertwining of businesses,
and they've even snagged up the sheriff and the police departments in this. They're corrupt.
They're
thoroughly corrupt,
engaged in it. Yeah, it's a mess. So yeah, this is huge.
Oh yeah, this is end game. You're in the end game.
We are in a fascist nation.
We have been for a while.
Yeah,
but where you're at right now is you're in mid 1930s Germany right now.
Yeah, we're at the end of this. Yes.
Only it's not Jews; it's white Christians.
Yeah. Case in point. Yeah.
I want to continue with this, but MAGA, you be very careful with this. You're not innocent. You're not beyond reproach. I want to continue reading. This is what fascism is. Mussolini, a partnership between the private sector and government, where government is the ultimate authority, quote unquote. This is what fascism, how it's supposed to work, by allowing the private sector to run itself unless and until the state sees a need that must be achieved for the good of the state nation, where the state decides what's good for it. That's Mussolini's quote again. Okay. Now here's another quote for you from the very first fascist dictator in recorded history. For it is very clear that in fundamental theory, socialism and democracy are almost, if not quite, one in the same. Is that starting to tell you why one side's worried about their quote unquote democracy? They're one and the same. They both rest at the bottom upon the absolute right of the community to determine its own destiny and that of its members. Men as communities are supreme over men as individuals. Limits of wisdom and convenience to the public control there may be. Limits of principle there are, upon strict analysis, none. Woodrow freaking Wilson, Socialism and Democracy, 1887. What did he just say? Your elected leader has no bounds, no checks upon what he can or she can and cannot do when it comes to deciding what's best for the nation. As long as they're elected, they get to be God. Ergo, Thomas Hobbes, not John Locke. Ergo, fascism, under the demise of democracy. And the only difference between the fascist and the communist is that the fascist understands it's more efficient to let you run your business and they focus on the nation. The communist wants to be the one running the businesses and they want the entire world. So the communist is just a more greedy fascist. That's the only difference. That's it. And Antifa is communist. And the people they call fascists are. But Charlie Kirk was not a fascist. Our government is. Antifa in our country today is not pointing the finger at the guilty. They're accusing the innocent. So yeah, that's correct. Woodrow Wilson, first fascist dictator in modern times. There was another one. His name's Muhammad. Yes, Muhammad was government. And you were allowed to do your own thing. Unless and until Muhammad deemed it better for him. Because he was the state, remember. So if you had a wife and Muhammad liked her, Muhammad would take that wife from you. Even if you were his own son. And he did. Well, not son, but, adopted type. One of the closest members of his adopted family. We are in big trouble, boys and girls, and that's because we don't even understand the definitions of words yet. Remember, I told you we'd come back to public-private partnership. I want you to pay attention. We're on Wikipedia. This is a site of the left, of the enemy. Public-private partnership, PPP. A public-private partnership, or P3, is a long-term arrangement between government and private sector institutions. Typically, it involves private capital financing government projects and services up front and then drawing revenues from the taxpayers and or users for profit over the course of the PPP contract. Public-private partnerships have been implemented in multiple countries and are primarily used for infrastructure projects. But they're also NGOs. And if you are the private business giving government the money it needs to do all its wonderful things for the people, do you think that the government is going to remain impartial to you and when it passes laws? No. This is fascism by another name. But it's not fascism because we call it something different. This isn't fascism. This is P3. Oh, bunk. Form and function define. And that is fascism. Anybody who's standing up for the rights of the individual, they cannot, by definition, what have I taught you about this? You don't get to argue with definitions and claim to be rational. If you are standing up for the rights of the individual over the rights of the crowd, you cannot be a fascist. That was Charlie Kirk. If you insist that the rights of a group must come before the rights of an individual, you are a fascist. If you are part of the Rainbow Jihad, this makes you a fascist. If you are part of Islam, this makes you a fascist. If you're a communist or a progressive or any other form of secular humanist, a socialist, you are a fascist. Just a different flavor of that ice cream. That's by definition. You don't get to argue with the definition. If you don't like it, change your clothes. Stop doing the things that make you a fascist. Otherwise, embrace it. strip naked and strut down the street and let the whole world know. Oh, wait a minute. That's why people are getting fired right now. Because they're doing just that. The man, capital M, the human being of lawlessness, immorality, according to the creator of the universe, has been revealed. And they are telling themselves in their own heart that they are their own gods. A la John freaking Dewey. Charlie? What did I miss? What did I get wrong?
No, you're on it today. And I'm still catching up. But
Bupa 73, yes. The military industrial complex is fascism. Yes. Yes. Amen.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Good one. Good one. Our students are learning. That's good. And our AI is glitching because she's supposed to be on all these hashtags and stuff.
Yes,
and
I noticed that she's
I guess
again.
I need to reprogram that or something. I guess something happened and she glitched and quit doing.
Charlie, you should try kinetic recalibration.
Oh yes, can I please?
Yes.
Okay, before y'all decide to give me a virtual lobotomy.
No, we said kinetic recalibration.
That was kinetic. That's not virtual.
It's kinetic recalibration to the cranial housing group.
You know,
smack you upside the head. See, it made it sound so much better when we used different language, which totally changed it.
That's
right. Yes, how
That's
progressive
right. We're being very progressive about it.
In case you're wondering about the hashtags, the reason why I haven't been doing the whole Woodrow freaking Wilson, etc., is because with We Who Are Lost, it's like, I don't know. Should I be using that type of language?
Well, actually, we're on the road to Concord today, even though his
true, but I mean,
no. She's actually a better example than we are here.
Yeah.
I probably should have said this privately, but
no. You're calling us to be better at walking out our principles. You did good.
Yeah, that's good.
That's a correction I will accept. Very good. Yeah. Thank you.
We'll take that.
If you've been watching this show, Charlie, you're the memory group here, which that's a glitchy hard drive too, in both our cases.
Yeah.
But do you not remember on this show me telling people you should be praying for Biden because he's an abused elder?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
While he was still in office?
Yes.
I did say that. I said his wife should be arrested for elder abuse.
Yes.
And I told people pray for him because that man was not in total charge of his faculties.
No.
That was me trying to do what the scriptures tell me I'm supposed to do. I didn't agree with him, not once. But now where are the people on the left, the political left, praying for Charlie Kirk or his family?
I ain't seen much of that.
Not all systems of right and wrong in this world are equal. They're not. So we can't all think that, well, what's right for you is and what's right for me are different things and we're all equal. No, we're not. No, not all systems of government are equal. No, those are lies. But Natasha just corrected us on something. If the angels would not condemn or insult Satan to their face when they argued over the body of Moses, I suppose we shouldn't be disparaging another image of the creator, even if he is working for the boys from the other post code, which was a German term for the Allies in World War II. They called their enemy the comrades from the other postal code. In other words, Satan. I stand corrected. We've told you I'll do that. Henceforth, no more hashtagging. Not those two. And I'll endeavor to drop that from my vocabulary. It's wrong. Shouldn't do it. Anything else, sir?
No, I think we're doing okay.
We will get those 2 chapters done tomorrow, 12 and 13.
Yeah, we'll finally get to that.
Monday will be Manic Monday. We've got plenty of stories to go over. I might even have donuts and a green shirt on.
Ooh, that could be dangerous.
It has been a while since Mr. Bakanovic has let me out to play. We'll channel the inner Dr. Evil. Creatures in here. All right, we're done. Let's wrap it up, folks. We appreciate you being here. We love you. We thank you for your time. It's worth a lot. Your time is precious. You only have so many hours in your life. We hope that we're doing something to actually educate. I see lots of people on talk radio and the webcast and everything, and they talk about these things, but they never stop to define them. And look what we did today. We went right back to the man who coined the term, and we looked at his definition of it. Then we looked and we saw that Hitler agreed. And then we went back to the man that they got their ideas from. They got their ideas from Woodrow Wilson. Not my words, theirs. Remember, Goebbels said they learned propaganda from Edward Bernays, who worked for Woodrow Wilson. He's the man who first coined the term propaganda and spin, public relations. That all comes from Edward Bernays. So when we accuse people of being fascist, if you're on the left in this country, you're pointing the finger at your team. Thank you for the confession and admissions. Maybe if you weren't ignorant of history, maybe if you were as educated as you think you are because you went to college, you wouldn't make such comments that are so easily turned around and handed back to you. You know, like your head on a platter. Intellectually, anyway. But then again, part and parcel of that ideology is that you never admit when you've been wrong. Because a God can never be wrong. We try hard to look at and understand the world with a biblical perspective, biblical worldview, just like the founding fathers did. You want to restore the nation as the founders did, you have to do it the way they did. Nothing else will work. If you think it will, I would please show me, I beg you, show me one place in history where it has worked. One. We'll wait. Charlie, start the watch. I don't think you'll ever have to worry about the stop button on this one, so you can put it in the drawer. When you understand the world better from a coherent and consistent worldview, if nothing else, it helps you determine how you should think about things and how you should react to them in your world. Which, if you focus on that, rather than how the world makes you feel, that'll bring about an inner sense of calm and peace. And if you choose that biblical worldview like we have, it does bring about joy, even in the presence of loss and of persecution. I can rejoice over what happened to Charlie Kirk, not because I want him dead, but because I see that the Creator has used it to bring a lot of people out of the darkness. And I think were he alive, even Charlie would say that that's an honorable death because it served the Creator, his Son, and their kingdom and his fellow man. So even though I mourn for his family and I am enraged over the injustice of what happened, I can rejoice for the way it was used for the good of those who trust and believe in the Creator. And I marvel and wait with bated anticipation to see what else he does with it. And I fear what the people who think they're on the Creator's side but actually aren't will do with it as well. Yes, sir.
Someone asked Charlie Kirk how he wanted to be remembered. His first reaction was, when I'm dead? He's like, because he was a young man. But he said he wanted to be remembered for having courage and using courage to live out his faith. I think he did that.
Amen. No better place to quit. We will see you. Those of you who join us tomorrow, we'll see you tomorrow. For the rest of you, hopefully, see you Monday. Y'all stay safe. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, be safe. We love you.